right, and welcome back to the show. And we are now joined all the way from the UK with Martyn Ellis from SERPER. And just to give you again, SERPER is an independent nonprofit organization registered in England and Wales, engaged in extraterrestrial contact research and training, encouraging a non-harmful contact with extraterrestrial visitors on Earth. And again, Martyn, thank you so much for waking up at 5 a.m. in the UK and coming on Starseed Energy Radio. How are you feeling tonight?
Oh,
or I
great.
should say the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, fine. I've just done a 4-mile jog, and I'm ready to go.
Excellent. Well, that will do it. It's been a high energy all night. We had 8 guests so far in the show, so you're number 9, and you're going to be spending the rest of the hour with us talking about your contact, your organization. But first, let's jump into a famous question that my listeners know I love to ask, which is, when was your first real awakening yourself personally to that we were these higher beings of existence, that it wasn't just what they taught us in school, that there's a lot more going on that meets the eye? When was your first big awakening?
Well, that goes back to 1981 at a tender age of 21, and there gives my age. And, well, I mean, it was an astonishing, absolutely amazing, incredible, ineffable moment of wonder. Principally, it's called samadhi. In the Japanese Buddhist tradition, it's called satori. Christian Gnostics, they call it gnosis or knowing. The mystical experience is another label. These are all labels of a profound, amazing experience that I had back then as a young adolescent. It's one of those experiences that absolutely is difficult to express, largely because of the ineffable nature of it. It's total wonder. When you drop into unity, and this was the amazing experience, it's total gaga land. You're entirely arrested within this wonder, and there's this expanse of consciousness, and your heart is just explodes outwards. And so it really began way back then with this profound experience, which I had no idea how long I was in that condition for. I suspect probably maybe 5-10 minutes, but that's just a guess. And what was happening during this time was this electrical sensation, amazing electrical sensation, that was rising from my feet gently all the way through up my body. I was sitting down, and at the point when it happened, I was now feeling completely at rest, very comfortable. And my eyesight fell somewhere between the wall in front of me, which was about, say, 10 feet, and me. So in the space in between, it just rested there. And there was this gentle sense that my thoughts were now settling down. And little did I know that eventually they would flatline. So I'm in this kind of 500 stare, the sort of one that we see children do. And space is now beginning to open out. And at the same time, I'm getting this electrical sensation at my feet. So what's happening now is I'm entering into this unity experience where as it's often said, the dewdrop becomes a shining sea. And at the height of it, there was this enormous blissful state. And to call it love is rather a human concept. Divine love is again a kind of a human understanding of that which is beyond human understanding. But the love itself was something which is ubiquitous, something that is universal. It really is the Higgs boson that everybody's been trying to find, this substance that binds all matter together, and that is the energy, the quintessential stuff that binds all things within creation, is this energy, and this energy is a sea, and you're in this sea, and it's endless and it's blissful, and then that's it. You can't explain anymore. And once this energy started to get to my chest, as I say, this was the amazing feeling, and then it progressed up into my head, and from there you had this sense of infinity and feeling so tiny but yet loved within creation. And this inflow, there's this inflow of unknown knowing. You've got this expansion, and you've got this sense of infinity, this sense of being tiny within the whole scheme of creation, yet important and loved. But you're having this inflow of unknown knowing coming into the consciousness, and it's a bit like zeros and ones. It doesn't make any sense. And all this to say was happening, and not long after this experience came contact with extraterrestrial beings. So, I mean, there's a very brief, cursory explanation of Unity experience, and all I do, yeah.
And it's amazing, Martyn, that happened, so many years ago. You were lucky. A lot of us, like myself, was just recently awakened in the last couple of years. But again, having that experience, like you said, electricity flowing through your body. When I had my several experiences, and I talked this when I spoke to you a few weeks ago, and I shared my experience when I consciously left my body and astro traveled or collapsed into a frequency, and all these different experiences I had. And so many people like us have these experiences, but it's so many people are like, when I talk to people like, not you, but other people, they're like, everyone will think I'm crazy if I tell them about it, or I see ETs and people will think I'm crazy. It's like, people, it's past the time of what's real and what's not. It's obvious ETs exist. It's in every indigenous tribe on the planet. All the ancient structures are on PowerPoints, on meridians, they're aligned perfectly to star systems that our telescopes can't even see. I mean, you name it, the proof is there. People need to wake up to the reality that, hey, we're these higher dimensional beings, the ETs. The news is out, and it's out there. And, it's so good to hear people like yourself coming forward with their experiences, because so many people I talk to don't talk about their experiences because they're afraid of what people think. And to me, that's crazy. It's like, why are you going to hold back that vast knowledge and experience that you could share to someone that when you shared your story, I could relate to that. I felt that energy, and that goes into quantum physics, quantum mechanics. You can see the documentary What the Belief, which talks about we're all a fabric of the universe. We literally are a fabric of the universe, and in just one level of existence, which I call the 3D Earth, which is the third dimension. And there's so many higher levels. So it's amazing that you got awakened so long ago. So that's, with this information and these downloads that people get. So it's really good to hear other stories. And that's why I asked that question, is because everyone has that one time where they got that blast of light, they got that energy, and they connected to source, and we remembered who we are in these bodies, and then we go into action. So tell us how you got to the SERPER stage, where you got to your organization, and how that got created.
Sure. Well, initially it goes, as I say, way back then, and contact started to happen more or less immediately thereafter. And it's been a journey of now 30 years of constant contact, if you like. And so all that contact was primary. I never read a book, the typical story, often heard, and I've never kind of ventured into the secondary source information, because it was always primary. So this was carrying on for years and years and years. We're talking every week, but because it was centered and it came from that wonderful spiritual kernel, that core of beingness, then everything was absolutely wonderful and perfect. It always has been ever since. And so life goes on, and in many ways you're out on a limb and you don't really talk to anybody about it, because one tends to sort of still be aware of ridicule. But that wasn't necessarily the reason why I didn't enter into the contact scenario more further. That came much later, more recently, in fact. And so I carried on with life as usual. And back then, I was a sportsman and international gymnast, and that was very primary in my life then. Well, what happened more recently, about 2 years ago, I happened upon the Disclosure Project, which everybody is aware of, that was streamed out from Washington, D.C., and that was an incredible awakening, because there are some very important high-caliber individuals there who are witnessing to some astonishing events, and for me that was a cathartic response. it was an emotional response because for all this time I'd had so much contact, and now it was exceedingly real in the real world. Other people who are very, very high caliber now talking about it suddenly hit me, and I was crying. I was in tears. And it's from that moment I realized that there were other organizations in the world, particularly CSETI, and I had to go there and meet Stephen Grimm and the team there, and they're wonderful people. But I couldn't understand why there wasn't a European version of CSETI that uses that very essential within the CE5 human-shaded contact spiritual component. So the idea there was to actually bring that project into Europe and to spearhead that, and that's largely the impulse there. But it goes way back 30 years, but more recently that was the initial impulse. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We got a commercial break coming up. When we get back, we're going to talk more about SERPER, what you guys have been doing, how the training is going, and some of the contact you guys had. And it's amazing stories when I spoke to you a few weeks ago. So sit tight, Martyn. We'll be right back, and here's some more of Hero Sonic.
As many of you know, natural supplements are fantastic for your body and have zero side effects. You need to restore your body's natural balance. TerraVim strives to carry only the highest quality dietary supplements and natural vitamins that can be beneficial in helping your body recover from the impact of daily stress, allergens, illness, environmental pollution, and the aging process. Why buy from TerraVim? Simple. TerraVim provides a rewards program. Earn $1 for every $10 spent, free health consultations, free shipping on all orders, and an additional 10% discount on every order when you mention the coupon code RBN. Call 866-647-4372. That's 866-647-4372, or go to terravim.com. That's TerraVim.com. TerraVim, the best supplements on Earth.
Herbal Healer Academy's new summer specials. Our 500 parts per million colloidal silver, all sizes on sale. Organic liquid iodine, liquid cal, mag, vitamin D, CoQ10 with hawthorn, colon enhancer, Super 2, natural laxative, our exceptional product Connexin, memory power, and super male and femplex. All on sale for the summer at herbalhealer.com. Also, 10% off on the HHA survival course. This is an important time to have this information. Might save your life. Nation's leader in supplying quality natural medicine and education. herbalhealer.com. Free online newsletter. Quality natural medicine supplier since 1988. We ship the same day you place your order. Free 128-page catalog with your first order. Go to herbalhealer.com today. herbalhealer.com.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
All right, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Starseed Energy Radio, and we are joined by Martyn Ellis from UK with the SERPER organization. And before we left, Martyn, you talked about how you first got or got into the SERPER organization. So now tell us about who is SERPER, who do you have involved, and where are you guys based out of, and what are you guys currently doing with your C5 training?
Yeah, sure. We're based down in the southwest of England, here in the UK, and primarily we have several people on the team. We have a wonderful cameraman, Niels Lindemann. He's a professional cameraman, and he does all of the filming and captures any anomalies and any action that's happening at the time. Then we have Milan, who's our audio specialist, and he rigs up the audio and catches anything that's within the environment. And so we have sensitive equipment for doing audio pickups as well. And other people who are there sharing and doing work for us. We also have Stian, who comes in from Norway, a young man who's again has got a lot of energy for the team, and he takes a lot of still images. And in fact, we're now going to be looking at time lapse and running them as a movie, picking up as much as we can out in the field as well as in the sky. So. On the technical side, we have very much in place the means to monitor and record scientifically what occurs. And so at the trainings that we do, we have an introduction, which is a 2-day introduction, and then we have an intensive, a 4-day intensive. And the two are slightly different, only insofar as the intensity of the training course over 4 days begins to build. We don't always advertise where we are going out to do our contact. But the team is very strong. It's a young, progressive group of individuals, and together we work very, very well. And of course, I head up all the meditation components and so forth. And so we bring the two together, the spiritual and the scientific, and work as a good team out in the field.
So it's very similar to, you talked about before, Dr. Stephen Greer, which I had on the show last month with CSETI, and they go out and they actually call in the ETs, they call in the ships, which is really an extension of our galactic family for the people that don't know. But by putting out the intent, doing the meditation, and holding that vibration, the consciousness raises within the group, and then the ET friends, or whatever you want to call them, can connect with you on that level of consciousness. And that's really what it's about, is about raising that consciousness so you could even be able to see those beings that reside at a higher frequency of existence. And that's what you guys do out in the field, just like Dr. Greer does and people at Shasta Mountain and stuff like that. So can you tell us a little bit about how has that been? How has that been? Tell us about some of the experiences that you have had with newcomers out in the field.
Yeah, for sure. It's been quite interesting, to say the least, and I'm saying that with a smile on my face. You're correct. Sure. I just wanted to slip in here that with regards to the C5 project, which has a spiritual component and very much a center to the work of making contact, and very few people, in fact, get it, as it were, and that's why SERPER is doing what we're doing, is because we completely understand that spiritual component, the conscious, the meditative aspect in terms of making contact, and so we're very very much on the same card there, and so the philosophy and the whole approach with regards to the protocols are totally parallel. Although we do bring into it a unique spin on some of the protocols, but nonetheless, yeah, we've had some wonderful experiences from objects moving across the sky to more recently we had a lady who had a contact with an ET being in the field, and she was seeing scintillating lights, sparklings of lights within the circle, and she was getting an incredible download of light straight into consciousness, and she could see with her eyes closed this sparklings of light. And then she received this energy, cathartic response that was working on her on an energetic level, and she was absorbing this power, and she was in a cathartic state. Now, I've trained energetically with divine energy for a long time now, and immediately I recognized what was occurring, so I went and stood beside her and had my hand on her chakra just to sort of mediate the inflow. But her sister was there, and she couldn't believe what was going on, and so the whole group was a witness to this contact experience, which was now a very physical experience. And so there was this particular experience not so long ago that was quite significant for this lady. And that evening, everything kicked off. We had lights going vertical, not far from the circle. We had our usual ET being clocking in at 12 o'clock, and he appears in a number of wonderful ways. And people were sensing and feeling typically ET beings in the field around us. But also it's important that to know that these are a very comfortable feeling. We're always assured, and those who come on to the training have a wonderful interactions with these benevolent, incredible beings.
That's right, beings of light and love. But hold on, Martyn, right there. We got to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll pick up where you left off in the story.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Time to be self-sustained. The Domain. The Domain is an exclusive community for people with environmental consciousness and self-sustaining spirit. By utilizing wind and sunlight as an abundant and reliable source of renewable energy, and coupled with the strongest structure ever devised, the geodesic dome, this development showcases doing more with less and energy freedom for like-minded families. The Domain Eco-Village features indoor organic gardens, aquaponics and hydroponic systems, sacred geometry design of sacred architecture, water recycling, and wastewater treatment systems. To find out more information and to see how you and your family can live off-grid, check out DomainEcoVillage.com. That's www.DomainEcoVillage.com.
Are you at a crossroads? Where do you turn when the ones closest to you can't help? Turn to Psychic Source, the most respected psychic service for more than 20 years. Psychic Source is there day or night with insight and answers, whatever your question. You'll get an accurate answer from expert advisors. Call now and get an on-the-spot 5-minute reading for only $5. Plus, if you're not completely satisfied with your reading, you don't pay for it. You can go to a doctor and tell them, I've got this pain. But what's the difference if you call a psychic and tell them, I have this pain in my emotional life? Comfort is only a phone call away. Call if you're at a crossroads in life. For only $5 for 5 minutes, get the answers you've been waiting for. And as a listener to my show, if you call now, the Psychic Source Network will bonus you another 5 minutes for free. You'll get a full 10-minute reading for only $5. What are you waiting for? Call 800-308-2942. That's 800-308-2942. 800-308-2942.
Guess what? I just got my own tower garden. You can grow your own organic fruits and vegetables right in your own backyard or on your patio or porch using the new Tower Garden by Juice Plus. It's a new patented vertical aeroponic gardening system that recycles nutrients and water and that will yield you 20 fruits, vegetables, or herbs month after month and year after year. There's no soil, no tilling, and no weeds to deal with. And you can do this in less than 3 square feet of space. Standing only 5 feet high, the Tower Garden comes complete with everything you need to get started. It's easy to assemble and comes with customer support. They're offering this interest-free for 12 simple payments. Please go to Tower Garden Complete for more information. That's www.towergardencomplete.com. Again, that's www.towergardencomplete.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Starseed Energy Radio. We're joined by Martyn Ellis from the UK with SERPER, the organization that engages in extraterrestrial contact research and training. And before we left, we were talking about some of the amazing experiences that you have had. So let's continue with that. So go ahead, Martyn, please.
Yeah, sure. We also provide a pre-C5 exercise for people who are coming on the course. So for about 2 weeks before, I help to initiate contact with people before they arrive at the place where we do the daytime workshops, and then go out in the evening and make contact. So we send this pre-C5 out, and on one particular occasion, one of the women started to see flashes in the bathroom with her daughter that she was bathing, and they both saw this incredible flash. And this was the start of a journey for the lady who came to the training, and in fact, this was the very lady I was mentioning earlier who was getting this energy contact, which was processing a number of the kind of blockages within her physical system. But also, we have recently this year an event where we were at the technical desk, and it was during a break. It was completely dark. Starlit night, and we had the infrared camera, the night vision camera, trained on the sky. And as we were as I was standing there just by the technical desk, and I've got Niels and Steer beside me, suddenly there was this huge flash to my right. It was about 5 foot away and about shoulder height, and it was almost blinding. And I said, "Did anybody see that?" That was a sky flash, but an ET had manifested literally five feet away. But nobody saw the flash. That was incredible. And then in the footage, we saw at the time, because it came out on the recording equipment, an object, a very large object that was coming through, clearly a craft, and it was floating through on the viewfinder. And that evening was very interesting too. And so we get these sky flashes, which is craft that bumping up against the fabric of time and space, as it's been frequently described. And that particular C5 training was very much about sky flashes, and we managed to catch this on film too. So that's another little incident that was happening.
And now, Martyn, I just want to say, when a lot of people hear this stuff and they're talking about contact and ETs, just to give you an idea, the latest quote, or not quote, but research. It was the Roper poll was done here, and this is on Wikipedia. Was 4 million Americans have claimed to be abducted, and that's abducted by UFOs, not that have seen UFOs. The last report that I've been reporting was 2.9 million, but the new one, in the new report, which is a Roper poll report that just came out, and this is on Wikipedia, is 4 million Americans. That's not counting how many Americans have seen UFOs. I've seen UFOs, and I'm talking UFOs that were extraterrestrial, not some black ops helicopter or something in the sky. So yeah, there are millions of people that have had contact. This isn't something crazy you're talking about. These are regular people like you and me that are going out, putting out the intent, and having amazing contact energetically, or seeing a being in 3D, or whatever it is. There's all different styles of contact. Is that what you have noticed as well? Is that there's all different shapes of form that contact can happen?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have a spectrum here of everything from, kicking tires, as it were, which is a very rare occasion. That's gold. But by and large, it's usually on a very personal level, and that interaction is very beautiful. We've discovered, and there's absolutely non-threatening. And this is very important to understand, is that in my experience, long before, going way back when I had a lot of contact, that the ETs that are coming forward are extremely sensitive, and they're very aware of your boundary levels. And so the spectra of contact, it can be incredibly physical, physically engaging, sensory engagement, through back down to the very subtle contact forms. And so, the amount of contact that's going on is immense, And of course, this term abduction is a loaded word. And within our vocabulary, there's a number of words which we are very aware of how sensitive people are, and the whole point about abduction is it gives you this sense that people are going against their will. And a lot of it has been written about how there are these projects.
Greys and the reptilians and
Yeah. I mean, and the internet is a wonderful, environment for fostering all sorts of information, and people will run with various information, and the truth of the matter actually is that when you engage at the spiritual level, you realize that all these labels, all these forms are really laid to bear and bear no relation to the direct experience that a number of people are having, a lot of people are having. And so there's been a lot of research that's going on in the background, and there's a number of papers to read that I do recommend people looking at, which goes into the black ops and the projects to really keep a lid down on the whole issue of contact with ET beings. And so that comes from that space. The space in which SERPER and organizations like CSET and so forth, this is a spiritual place, and quite frankly, that's the reality of the contact. There is absolutely nothing to fear, and I do sympathize completely with people who obviously have had some form of contact that has not been exactly how they imagine it to be. Again, whether or not this is a genuine contact with loving ETs is highly questionable whether that is the case. So it's a minefield, but the one guiding light through it is engaging your heart and not too much of the mind. Otherwise, you end up in a pool of too much information. You'll end up spinning and you fall over.
Absolutely.
One has to engage this with a little bit of humour and also not take things too seriously, but keep it lighthearted, but also to realise the spiritual component. So that's something that people haven't really realised, generally speaking, and the ufological community tend to lack that understanding, I have to say. And so there is a greater understanding in need, and people like SERPER, hopefully more organizations that are running with the CE5 project, understanding it for what it is, which is a spiritual component, a spiritual engagement, will begin to readjust this skewed view of contact being, to some, rather unhealthy. Unfortunately, that's part of the internet. It circulates a lot of information which is not necessarily true.
And just to touch on that for a second, for the Greys, yes, there are the Greys out there that we've talked to military personnel and people in black ops, like you said, that do work with the government. Yes, there probably are abductions that are not the kind we're talking about, which are the ones with love from the higher dimensional beings that are in that vibration of love. There are the darker forces, because this is duality. This is Earth. It's 3D. You have yes and no. You have love and hate. And I was just told recently by one of my spiritual guides, talking about the reptilians. Not all the reptilians are bad. That all the beings, no matter who you are, like we said, you're a fabric of the universe. So when it's all said and done, you're going back to light. You're going back to the fabric of the universe. So I just want to give a big shout out to all the Greys and reptilians that we know you guys aren't bad, and we send you some light and love. So I just wanted to say that out there. And talking about the beings that we're interacting with are beings that are maybe our higher selves or an extended self from our soul family, from a star family member. This goes into what Arcturus Ross said earlier on the show. I don't know if you heard him, but he was talking about disclosure. And I said, what do you think disclosure will happen? He said, I think disclosure is really when we, as humanity, figure out, all of us, and realize who we really are, which is these multidimensional beings of light ourselves, that we're really the real ETs, just trying to have contact back with our star family, with our original source.
Yeah, there's a number of points that you mentioned there, and the first thing I wanted to say with regards to the topic of various forms of ET is that we're operating from within a very human paradigm, and so we see into that horizon, our human condition, and it's a very difficult issue, and I understand it's problematic that we have this anthropocentric projection onto the unknown, and we tend to lay into that projection all our human issues and dramas and problems and so forth, and impose that upon the great infinite. And that's a problem because naturally we're in duality, and our experience as human beings is that we have up and down, left and right, hot and cold, good and bad. So we're entrapped within a paradigm, within a matrix of our own making, largely in terms of what we think and how we reprogram and program ourselves. So I just wanted to say there that the idea of there being, a threat as a projection from ourselves is a very awkward position to actually support and sustain, because it's a projection of our own psyche, and so we're expecting the great infinite to reflect that back. And I think that's actually highly problematic. Just briefly, I tend to take people on a kind of a mental journey, and I say, okay, let's get into this little spacecraft, and we'll zip out into space, and we'll park there, and we'll look around, and all we see is stars. No reference points at all to Earth. No reference points at all to, human sociality and human referencing. And then have a conversation from there where you see infinity in front of you. You see the wonder of stars everywhere. And you suddenly realize that the human constructs and the human ways of looking at things begin to fall away. So that's something I wanted to mention there. But also, interestingly, that there is a lot of speak about black operations that are procuring and manufacturing certain beings in order to impose a lot of fear and stuff. So there's a lot of speculation, but of course at the end of the day, it's personal experience, and everything
exactly
I've had has been totally positive. Now, as far as disclosure is concerned, that's in my view, it's happening. It's happening piecemeal, drip feed, and so forth. Nothing happens, in my view, suddenly in nature. It's all a natural progression, and I think we're moving quite quickly. Whether the United States government will say yes, okay, hold their hands up, yes, we've been holding it all this time. I think it's possibly unlikely that they're going to give up this very, very mindset of holding on to the kind of view that they have been, and so I think disclosure, yes, is also linked in with our own personal development, and yes, we are multidimensional, of course, and this is a gradual unfolding, and so of course we have to bear in mind that there are people on the planet that aren't where we are, and so there is a catch up there, and we have to be aware of not imposing a disclosure on people that aren't ready either in some ways. But yes, many are ready, and how that will shape out, we'll just have to watch.
Yeah, and you touched on a lot of good things yourself, which is, it's disclosure is happening slowly. As I said earlier in the program, the United States government on their website even, and what they call the Vault, where they release secret documents, just released last year that they did recover 3 bodies at Roswell and a craft. You had NASA talk about the Einstein time-space experiment, that they concluded that Einstein was right. There's a 4th-dimensional time-space vortex around the planet. So there is information coming out. If people look for it, there's tons of information coming out.
Yeah. And you'll find
disclosure is coming.
Yeah, for sure. We've had generations of programming, and it's often, I don't know if you've come across this term PLF, or programmed life forms, which is a lot has been said, and many witnesses are coming forward with testifying that these beings are manufactured in underground facilities. But that, apart from that, I mean, I've always joked, with tongue in cheek, that most of the programmed life forms tend to be above ground, and that's not being too unkind, because we are, as human beings, very sensitive, vulnerable, naive, and that's the beautiful thing about humans, is that we have this divine core of ourselves, but at the same time, we get manipulated quite easily. So we have generations that are lagging, bless them, and who are propping up a paradigm that is now falling apart. And so slowly, the entire human consciousness will catch up.
And you know what, just from me moving up here to the mountains in Asheville, and, when I was awakened, I had my experiences. I astro travel, I left I don't care what anybody says. I know what I had as an experience, period. And I've talked to locals, and I just talked to a local actually yesterday here. And when I mean local, I mean, a good old boy, a native from the mountains, like generations of farmers. And I've talked to several people now that have seen beings, the Western North Carolina little people. There's a race of beings that actually live here. Now, these people that I've talked to, these gentlemen, were not lying. These guys that I talked to, most of them don't know how to lie. They weren't brought up like that. They're not telling me some story and they're like, I saw him, he was glowing from the inside, and, they're, and the reason they're having these experiences, as we go back, is to the consciousness. They're not at this big program, materialistic ego level. These farmers, the people that are real Americans that are out there really doing it, they're having experiences one by one because they are at that consciousness, not even realizing it. It's the ones like we think we're so smart and we're so ahead. I'm still trying to beat my ego down to nothing, because I've been programmed for so long. It's not easy, So I see it all around.
Exactly. Yeah. You have indigenous peoples around the planet and who live an incredibly natural life, and are very open, and they're very much in tune with their environment and nature, and they're not receiving a lot of Hollywood spin. They're not on the
Martyn,
edge.
I hate to cut us off right here, but we're about to go to break, and that's the end of the segment for tonight. So sure. I just want to give out your website is SERPER, CERPER.org. And right. You can find out more about the CE5 training, and do you have any upcoming workshops or anything?
Yeah, we've got an introduction on 8th of September, and then again in October, and an intensive in November, and everything is on the front page. You can get information there.
Excellent. And you'll also be joining us once a month or so to keep people updated, all the listeners updated on the contact and all the amazing things that you guys are doing out in the UK. So you will be back, my star brother, I'm sure very soon, to tell us about all the amazing work you're doing. And thank you for all the work you're doing out there in the UK, and say hello for the team for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much indeed, Jonah. I look forward to it, and namaste to you, and namaste to all the listeners.
Namaste. We'll talk to you soon. Here's some more Hero Sonic, and we'll be right back with a wrap-up.